Lisa Stevens, Ph.D., serves as Assistant Dean at the University of Buffalo School of Engineering and Applied Sciences, leading the Office of Online Education. Also serves as Senior Strategist for Academic Innovation in the Office of the SUNY, that's State University of New York, Provost. Prior to that, she was a licensed broadcast engineer in Chicago at WLS-TV, well known to those of us in the Midwest. Lisa leads strategic development of online programs, promoting interdisciplinary opportunities, and coordinates operational program delivery. Her SUNY portfolio includes serving as Executive Director of FLEXspace, which we're here for today, Flexible Learning Environments Exchange, a global open education repository of learning environment exemplars. Aurora Velasco, M.Ed., has over 20 years of experience working in technology and higher education, joining the San Diego State University community in 2005 as Equipment Systems Specialist for the College of Professional Studies and Fine Arts. Prior to that, she served as a Technology Support Analyst for Arizona State University. As the Instructional Technology Services Associate Director, Aurora oversees the ITS staff members as well as approximately 25 ITS student assistants. Aurora coordinates the maintenance and support of classroom systems, training for faculty, day-to-day operations of the ITS One-Stop Help Desk, and contributes to video conferencing and special events. She received, along with other ITS and ITUS colleagues, the Presidential Staff Excellence Award in 2021 for team effort. Aurora is also serving as a member of the IT Diversity Council at SDSU, San Diego State University. And with that, I'm delighted to welcome Lisa Stevens and Aurora Velasco, who are going to be discussing the three key values of FLEXspace: repository, resources, and FLIPP, which is an acronym for FLEXspace Integrated Planning Pathway. The floor is yours. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm just going to share my screen here and get over to the slideshow. All right, so we should be in business. So, and I put your logo on. So thank you so much. It's so good to be back to the Midwest and amongst all people who, work in AV, which is certainly one of my favorite places to be. This is us. Happy to put our contact information on here at the end, or we can put it in the chat. But we wouldn't be here without a little help from our friends. My longtime partner in FLEXspace is Rebecca Frazee she was at San Diego State for a long time, now at UC San Francisco. I think probably most everyone in this group knows our friend Joe Way, who has certainly been a very important recent contributor to FLEXspace. Talk about that in a bit. And we hope to have just a little bit of time left at the end to show you some screenshots of what the new FLEXspace 3.0 is going to look like. And we've been working with Cindy and her team at K-Wall to get there. So just going to give you a really quick agenda. We're going to talk a little bit about the background of how FLEXspace came to be and how the learning space rating system was emerging around the same time, and then how the combination of the two create the FLIPP, and as I mentioned, the preview of FLEXspace 3.0. The key points of all of this are we think we have, I was going to say stumbled onto, but it's more of an evolution of an effective way of building consensus. And I think we all know what it's like to get people around the table and not really have a clear starting point. So we'll talk about that as part of the FLIPP. Both FLEXspace and the Learning Space Rating System are freely available to anybody with a .edu account or an equivalent. So an international equivalent or K through 12, we just might need to add you manually. And then finally, we want to make sure you know how to share your outcomes so you can showcase and show off some good work. So I always share this slide because it's our starting point, where SUNY is really the largest comprehensive system of higher education in the country. California would eat our lunch, except that they have three separate reporting entities, as where we just all our community colleges, comprehensives, and the university centers go up to a single office with the SUNY provost and chancellor. So it was a really nice thing to be invited to be a part of the provost's advisory committee. who walked in one day and said, we're spending millions of dollars. I'm not convinced we have the right people around the table for learning environments. We cleaned up the third quote because I think it was more akin to, for God's sake, can't we find a way to share pictures? So that was the start. We must have done something right. It began as the Innovative Instruction Space Repository, which just doesn't roll off the tongue. So it became FLEXspace.org. And as far as we know, we are the largest repository of innovative learning spaces anywhere. And the stats are kind of fun. These are a little bit stale. We think there's closer to 800 spaces in there now, probably closer to 1,500 institutions, around 6,000 members. My favorite is that we have accounts in the system from 75 different countries. And of course, it's really nice to have a lot of annual views. And we had to start with, and I know our type of people, I mean, someone brings a problem to us and we're really quick to say, okay, how can I fix it? And what do we need to bring to this problem to solve it? This really took some discipline because we needed to stop, take a step back a little bit and say, what problem are we really trying to solve? So we borrowed this graphic from our friends at Steelcase and realized that you could map just about anyone involved in space to one of these three key stakeholder groups. It's going to have something to do with the teaching and learning, or something to do with the space, or something to do with the technology inside the space. Not rocket science, but you'd be surprised how just having this as a foundational element really helped, because then we started teasing out all of the different roles, you know, the sectors, the people that might want to have access to a repository like FLEXspace, and then what their priorities might be. Okay, questions so far? Still good? Okay, we're good. I see Aurora smiling, so we must still be good. So again, 2 free tools. I'm going to assume that most of you are familiar with both of these, but if not, think of the learning space rating system as a quantifiable way to measure the learning potential of space. It's essentially a spreadsheet with a scoring mechanism. FLEXspace, on the other hand, think pictures, detailed attributes coupled to the pictures. And importantly, there is a Pinterest type app coupled to all this, which is we call the idea board. Okay, little fuzzy, but nonetheless, we do have some significant growth both in the K through 12 side, which is nice because we know what's coming to us in higher education, as well as designers and architects are becoming much more interested in FLEXspace. So to get in, right now in version 2.0, which by the way, would have been just fine with us to stay on version 2.0, but Drupal 7 came to end of life, so we were forced into a platform migration. And I'm always bowled over by the generosity of our colleagues, because so many of you have jumped in and said, hey, you know, it'd be nice if. So one of the nice if that we're going to be changing is right now, the entry site page is on WordPress, and then you go and have to log separately into the repository. It's eventually all going to be an easy one-stop shop. But if you've not been there before, FLEXspace.org, scroll down a little bit, there's a video that does a much more succinct explanation of FLEXspace than I am providing right now. Okay, so 3 key features. We have the repository itself, show you that in a second. Again, the generosity of colleagues, the sharing economy. So many people have said, yeah, I saw a really great article on that. So, well, why don't we put something up in the portal that would enable you to share that article with a bunch of other people who are probably very interested? And then again, the combination of the learning space rating system and FLEXspace The integrated pathway, we're starting to get more good anecdotal evidence that this is working pretty well. And I look forward to your feedback on that. Okay, so let's start with just a single record in this particular case in the repository. This is a nice, there we go. This is a nice record. And this is similar to the layout of all the records in FLEXspace. Little bit of an introduction, some key information on the right-hand side, tag the type of classroom. This is connected to your
Hello again.
About your account. It automatically links to your account and provides the information there. We ask that people fill out certain elements of the construction. You know, it's nice if you give more information, it'll help your colleagues, but there was this balancing act. How do you ask for lots of information, but not so much information that people say, I don't have time to do that. So then you just upload photos. You can click on any one of these photos and make it bigger. Go through the photos, you get the idea. And then down here, this is the output of the tagging. So when you upload a space, this is what's going to show as you go through and tag the different types of features that the room has. And again, you'll see that Venn diagram, reflected here, the learning elements, the layout and furnishing, the types of general equipment, tables, the environment itself. Certainly, we're always concerned about the quality of the acoustics in the room. Technology, here we've got different technologies listed. And then the brands themselves, this was a real challenge because we had to decide early on, we're not going to say Crestron or Extron, just like everybody used to call a refrigerator the Frigidaire. Now you can tag the brands, but they chose not to tag a lot of brands in here. And that's okay. But they did a beautiful job really laying out some details about what the room is like and how it functions, and a little bit of a case study here, the story behind the planning and design, and they can come back later and put in the impact and user response. And then they uploaded some additional pictures. You can look at the floor layout. You get the idea. So it's a nice way when you're talking with colleagues to say, oh, I have a room I can show you there. All right, so back here. Next slide. The resources, again, the generosity of our colleagues. If I go to this article on biophilia, I had never heard the term before I sat in with some of our colleagues at SCUP, but I'm just gonna go here. There we go. Rebecca uploaded this for Terry Peters, tagged for research and evaluation, but then I can come down and actually hit this link. Now I'm into an article that provides all this information about biophilia. And apparently the love of living, the love of light and good sound, it's kind of supposedly imprinted on our DNA. So the more of that you can put into your learning spaces, the better off you are. All right. The ideal really at the end of the day is all about integrated planning. And we did a webinar just the other day for our friends at SCUP, the Society for Colleges and University Planners. And I said, this is their definition for integrated planning. It's all about what we do every day, right? Building relationships, aligning the organizations, and oftentimes saying, we work with the faculty, please let us be at the planning table. The learning space rating system was actually designed by some of our colleagues who said, wait a minute, we've got this LEED environmental credit system. Can't we come up with something that measures learning potential that functions a lot like this LEED system that people already understand? And that's exactly what they did. And the LSRS was divided into two major sections. The first section, Part A, is literally the first three sections is all about that integration with your campus, the planning and design process. How do you work with your facilities planning and design group? And support and operations. Do you have dedicated budget to support those rooms? Do the faculty have opportunity for professional training in those rooms? Do you have, I don't know, uniform touch screens, that type of thing? The point is that if you are responsible for all of the classrooms on your campus or for a good portion of those classrooms, centrally scheduled perhaps, those first three elements, the scores are going to carry over from room to room to room to room, because they're really asking institutional questions and scoring. Part B, the environmental quality, all of those elements, that's really where you can document in FLEXspace, and it's really where each classroom becomes unique. I think this is where I turn it over to Aurora, finally.
Thanks, Lisa. Hi, everyone, and thank you again for having us today. So I want to dive a little bit deeper into the Learning Space Rating System, or the LSRS for short. Like Lisa mentioned, it's a scoring system, and it provides a measurable set of criteria that you can use to assess how well the design of a learning environment supports and enables multiple modalities of learning and teaching, especially that of active learning. So what I want to walk through right now is that Part B Lisa was talking about, that, and this part really focuses more on the physical spaces themselves versus the institutional structure. So first I'll talk about the section 4, environmental quality. All of these rating criteria takes a look at the environmental quality of a space, everything from the lighting in the room to the heating, the cooling, how comfortable is it in there for its occupants. Lisa mentioned earlier the biophilia, which is a love of life or living things. That was also a newer term to me, but there is a scoring criteria here: visual connection to nature. How well does this learning environment connect its occupants to nature via within the space or via, say, a window out to the outside? Next, I'll talk a little bit about the section on layout and furnishings. So this scoring criteria is about how is the space configured to optimize interaction amongst its participants. So, ensuring ease of movement to support communication and collaboration, not only for the student users of the space, but also for the instructor. Can the instructor walk around and access any student for a one-on-one? And how flexible are the furnishings in the space to accommodate a wide range of learning activities. Next, taking a look at technology and tools, section 6. So these scoring criteria is all about, do users in this space have access to IT and AV infrastructure to empower their learning? Not only the types of technologies, but can content, for example, be recorded and shared so users can access lectures asynchronously? There's now also a new credit here regarding immersion technologies. So does this space allow for that type of new experiential learning as a standard versus, someone having to bring it in externally, some instructor borrowing some, device from elsewhere? The next section is regarding inclusion. So right now the LSRS tool is version 3.0, and in previous versions of this rating tool, there was a section on inclusion, but it was more minimal. So this new version 3.0 has really expanded upon inclusion beyond not only physical, but also cognitive and cultural. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about what each of those areas entails. So first, the physical inclusion and universal design for learning, or UDL. So this is scoring, ensuring those with physical disabilities, not only can they access the space, but are they also able to fully participate in the learning activities happening within that space? So cognitive inclusion, this is a newer one in the tool. And a little definition to start off with: cognitive diversity is the inclusion of people who have different styles of problem solving and can offer unique perspectives because they think differently. So with this scoring criteria, the intent here is to try to accommodate the various ways a learner can not only receive information, but also express information, and to create a space that's safe and welcoming. So for example, to give you an example, those on the autism spectrum, they might need the ability to adjust light, bright colors, muted tones for paint colors, for example, could help create a more calming environment for these types of learners. Here on this slide, the photo on the left is a sound dampening booth. And, potentially that's something, one could use to go to if they need to get away from high noise levels within a space. And next, talking a little bit about cultural inclusion, another new element of the LSRS. So the intent here is to ensure spaces are welcoming for all people, regardless of their cultural backgrounds or social identities. So some criteria here included is, for example, is there decor, signage, art, some artwork or artifacts that positively reflect that community's diverse cultural backgrounds, including historically underrepresented groups. So next, I want to talk a little bit about more detail of this criteria. So here I've done a high level of each area, layout and furnishings, technology and tools. So we're going to take a look at one sample credit, and this is within layout and furnishings, and this is proximities within the space. On the left side of this slide, you're going to see the details that the LSRS tool provides to a rater on how they can score this room accurately. So first, it gives the rater the intent. What's the purpose of this criteria? In this case, to configure the room proportions to optimize interaction among the participants. And there's 1 point possible. The next section details for the rater, how will this room get that point or points? In order to obtain that point, it lists specific criteria the room must meet. So in this case, as you can see, it's about, can students face each other in the space for collaboration? And can the instructor easily approach students within the space for collaboration? I want to note that the next part, you'll see it says verified by. That's an interesting part of the LSRS. It's not subjective. It's not, oh, sure, this seems fine. This room seems cool. Everything must be backed up with some evidence. So in this case, they're saying, yeah, we can prove this room can receive this point by the interior design layouts, showing how much space is between the desks, for example. And on the right, you can see a sample score sheet going through each criteria for a particular space. And next, I'll pass it back to Lisa. I think she has a fun little anecdote about this learning environment in the UK.
I have to be honest with you. I thought a lot of this was kind of hooey, and then our friends over at Scomes invited a few of us to come over and talk about FLEXspace at one of their conferences, and we were in this room in TLC 113. And you can see along the back wall how pretty it was in terms of just being able to look out the window. But more importantly, I was impressed by, and you can see them maybe a little bit easier on the picture on the left, these louvers that could be opened up for fresh air. And the combination of reasonably good acoustics and the biophilia element, it was one of the most pleasant presentation experiences I've ever had in an active learning classroom. So I'm really sold now on a lot of these elements.
Thanks, Lisa. And next, I want to share with you all how we here at San Diego State University are utilizing these two free tools. So FLEXspace, at which Lisa covered, and the Learning Space Rating System, LSRS, which I briefly went through. So first up, a little bit about our team. I want to give you a little bit of background of who we are here at ITS. Thank you, Lisa. So I work for a department, Instructional Technology Services, here at SDSU, and we help faculty use technology for instruction. And part of ITS is our Learning Environments team. So this team is comprised of about 7 full-time staff members. And what that team does is maintain the 176 general assignment classrooms here at SDSU. So I want to stress that point. We only manage the centrally scheduled classrooms. We don't maintain all college-owned lab spaces or or specialty environments. We just manage the centrally scheduled areas. The team is responsible for the classroom design as well as the integration. You can see in the video here, our team goes out, pulls the cable. I'm sure like work that many of you here on this call do. We'll do all of that in-house and do all of the yearly summer upgrades in-house, working closely with our facility services folks to, you know, take care of anything, for example, new flooring, tile, paint, things like that. In terms of the LSRS, 2 of these staff members are trained on the rating system. And we do that, we try to keep it to a minimal number of staffers who go out to rate our rooms with the LSRS, just for, you know, continuity of scoring. And I know Lisa will talk in a bit how, you know, given how detailed the criteria and the LSRS system is, you know, likely anyone could just take the criteria and go with it, but we just like to keep it to 2 for that continuity. So next up, I'll talk a little bit about how we utilize the LSRS for going around in our rooms to score. As I mentioned, our raters will be thoroughly prepped on the LSRS tool via reading all of those credits, the definitions, the scoring criteria. They're already prepped on that ahead of time. And what we've done to make scoring a little bit easier, we've basically pulled all of the ratings and criteria into a Qualtrics survey. So we use the Qualtrics survey, and then the rater goes out into the classroom with an iPad and just pulls up the survey, and in each room is able to fill out each component, each score, each criteria for a specific space, and then start the survey over for the next room that they end up in. So it definitely makes it easier for the rater to move around. I want to mention that every year we perform about a dozen or so classroom upgrades. And every time we do upgrade a space, the rater will go back out and score a room that recently was upgraded to make sure that's all up to date. So once we get all the rooms scored, we go ahead and tabulate that data, as you can see on the right, and we tabulate it with a percentage. So from a percentage, how well did this room do against the scoring criteria of the LSRS? And I do want to mention, we do use the LSRS data to help inform our yearly classroom upgrades. So clearly it's going to show us which rooms are in more need of some TLC, which rooms, you know, really are struggling, whether it's from a layout and furnishing standpoint or from the technology side of things. On top of the LSRS data, we also include data from a yearly user survey. Our learning environments team sends out a survey to all faculty teaching in our classrooms, and we ask them a variety of questions like, you know, what did they use Zoom? Did they use MediaSite, which is our course capture system? How was their support experience? How did they reach us for support? Was it phone? Was it email, etc.? And also we give them open feedback on what do they want to see installed in these spaces that isn't already. We also pull data from our trouble ticket system. Here at SDSU, we're using ServiceNow. So I'm not sure if anyone else here might be using that, but it's very easy to pull data on, you know, how many rooms had which rooms had the most tickets. Of those tickets, you know, how many PC issues were there or projector issues were there. And that also helps inform what rooms might need some upgrades. We also just do some general feedback, whether it's word of mouth from faculty or also other IT technicians around campus who've used our spaces. You know, we get their feedback as well. So all of that, again, with the addition of the free LSRS tool, is what we present to leadership when we say, hey, these are the rooms we'd like to upgrade for next year. And next up,
Here we go. Come on.
I want to talk a little bit, touching back on the first tool that Lisa was telling us about, FLEXspace. We also have been using FLEXspace here at SDSU, and I have found it to be a very useful tool for sharing with stakeholders more information about our spaces. So as Lisa walked you through before, there's photos, line diagrams, details on, you know, capacity, how the room is used. And everything from, you know, I've had faculty reach out to me saying, hey, I got assigned PS 130 next semester. What's in there? I send them a link to our FLEXspace page on PS 130 that details everything they'll need so that they can better plan for their course lectures. I've also had colleagues from other universities, if we've, you know, given a presentation on a room, you know, they'll say, hey, you know, I really love that Learning Glass studio you all created. What kind of camera did you install in that room? You know, I always tell them, hey, I can do one better. I'll give you this FLEXspace link. which includes all these details, including many of our rooms, we include a parts list. So we have the detailed AV parts list that we share with colleagues if they want to learn or find out what components we actually purchased for the space. So it has proven to be very useful for us. And, every time we have a flagship classroom get upgraded, or we have a new active learning environment that we've created, we'll always put it on FLEXspace to be able to share to our various stakeholders.
It must be time for me to talk more. Oh,
Does anyone have any questions by any chance? Might as well just give a little pause if anyone has a question.
Sure.
No? Okay, go for it, Lisa.
Okay. So the next part, the third big section that we wanted to talk about, returning back to the notion that, LSRS and FLEXspace combined, is even though Aurora described how a couple of their staff members go out and collect all the data from the centrally scheduled rooms, a few years back on our campus, we trained a group of students to work alongside with some professional staff. I don't know what your experience is, but sometimes people get a little nervous when you walk in with a clipboard into a classroom. So we were able to describe what we were doing, and this was in one of the early versions of the Learning Space rating system. The point is that solid training enabled inter-rater reliability. We knew that everybody was looking at the room through the same lens, as it were. So to make it a little easier to describe how this might work at your campus, we put together a little simulation. Chances are some of you may have seen this before, but essentially it's a screenshot from my home campus. We said, let's focus on this cluster of buildings, one part, and then we'll focus in on building B. And for the sake of the simulation, we're going to pretend that building B has the same footprint, which of course, no building ever really would. But you can turn your raters loose, have them just go through the rooms logically, 101, 102, 103. We already know what the capacity of the room is, and we know the type of room that it is. Just added a little color coding here to differentiate between the floors and the departments, and the scores fall wherever they fall. But then you can take those scores, rank them, high to low, low to high, however you want to do it. In this case, we're suggesting that maybe anything below an 80 should be considered for some type of upgrade. And that in and of itself would be probably warmly received by most provosts or campus CFOs, because you're starting from a position of data. And my standing line here is, I don't know about your states, but in our state, occasionally they come up with some new criteria for professional development. Let's say in this case for K through 12 teachers. Well, most of those teachers get done at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. They may or may not have time to get to a nearby campus to participate in a class. Of course, especially post-pandemic now, a good number of them will want to participate through video conferencing or some type of HyFlex experience. So even though the education department here has some highly rated rooms, a couple of rooms, well in line of the above 80, those are the rooms that we might want to consider updating the microphones in, or make sure the acoustical properties of the rooms are in good shape in order to meet the enrollment pressure, the enrollment demand. And your mileage may vary in terms of who you have around the table, but oftentimes whoever's charged with leading the investment of these classrooms, they're kind of trying to manage the consensus. The cool thing about this is you're actually asking people to leverage their own expertise. So the biology professor knows where there's cool rooms, that he or she's been to at various conferences. You can look in FLEXspace and see if one of those rooms are there. If not, you can reach out to a colleague and say, hey, could you do me a favor and take a picture of that really cool room that you have on campus? And it just helps your group ideate around those. Well, how does it help your group ideate around them? Because you can set up a private idea board, and then everybody around that table can just tag, their examples to the idea board. And again, they're filtering it through their own expertise. So this is, typically what a page looks like from FLEXspace. The idea boards are also what we've used in the past to come up with themes, sort of quick at a glance rooms that we know our colleagues are often looking for. We've put together various classrooms for, like the AAMC session was all about medical classrooms. That's what I'm trying to say. Let me get out of this for a second and see, because I do have some examples put in here. If you've not been into FLEXspace, you would just go here to sign in. Down here is where I mentioned the video is. Once you get signed in.
Hey, Logan.
This is where you've got.
Sorry. Yeah, I am.
So I went over to the fireside room because Julie
Yes.
Elliott had something with her.
Hey,
So basically, they were trying to watch the cross country race.
there we go. So you can come right in and say, all right, what types of rooms am I looking for? I can quickly just, boom, oh, there aren't any under that. Okay, so I'll come back and say, well, what about another type of room that I might want to look at? Well, let's just go back to all of them. I can look at the upper navigation here for different idea boards. I can keep toolkits here, the different toolkits, like when I went to the biophilia earlier, several pages of those down here. And you can actually look here by the type of resource that may be there. Look by institution. So if you're a public university, you may want to do some pure benchmarking against other public universities. But getting back to spaces, you can also come in and search by capacity, by project scope. I don't use those too much, but over here, looking into the institution types, this is great. It's already on K through 12, but let's see what happens if I go to public universities. I wanted to mention that as we're going through this migration from version 2.0 to 3.0, there may be a little lag time. Please be patient with us. Don't get frustrated if it's slow or dogging a little bit. I promise you it's going to be better at the end of this 3.0 upgrade. So here, just went in and said, okay, let's look at some public university spaces. You can see that there's multiple pages down here. This happens to be my own campus that I just clicked on almost accidentally. Yeah, we don't have a lot uploaded with that record. So one more detail. How do you create a space? It's pretty easy. You go in here. This is what was being described earlier. Aurora was talking about how you can share it outside. But you know what? It's easy enough to get an account too. So you put in the space name. It pulls from your profile, put in a quick description, tag it. What type of space is it? It's pretty much just like any other database. And then start filling in the stuff in blue we really would like you to put in. We always appreciate it if people are willing to put in more information or even give us some numbers. We have some premium partners here that if you're kind enough to tag them, that helps us with our sponsors. You can upload your photos. And then here is what about 100 of our colleagues helped us develop way at the beginning. This is the tagging, all the different learning elements, the settings, the types of learners. How do you schedule the room? Okay. Again, that Venn diagram, layout and furnishings, pretty much generic terminology. Same with the environment. You can go in and look through all of this. The technology, and this needs to be, given a little update, and we're working on that for 3.0. But here's the brands. If you want to search on the brands, these are the people that have been helping us with some sponsorship. But we don't care if you help us or not. We want you to be able to go in and search, by any tool that you might want to be using. So you can upload that, can upload your scores. I don't think 3.0 will include the older system, because now the learning space rating system is teased out by sections like Aurora was showing earlier. So you put in your scores, excuse me, X out of number of credits. You can add additional information, maybe some links. Add your case study story. Come down here. You can always add additional information. My friend John Pfeffer has been known to go to conferences all over the country and present right out of FLEXspace. He'll just put his PowerPoint in there and pull it up out of there. So that's the idea. Oops, excuse me, get out of here, get back to here. Back to the slideshow. This goes to something that the Cal State University system did a number of years ago. Back in 2018, they said, we're spread across this big, long state. It's hard for us to get together, and everybody wants to make a makerspace. So let's just make an idea board and everybody upload, their records of makerspaces. They kept it to themselves. And I think you can get in and actually see it now. But just to summarize, we like that we're considered a trusted source because we're not really shilling for anyone other than ourselves. This whole process does support, strategic planning. And I wanted to give you a quick show of the wireframes. Any questions about the flip process? I can finally get to the gallery view here. That's what I was looking to do. There. All right. Well, the wireframes. I forgot that I had this hot linked. We'll come back to that after it's there. It's going to be much cleaner, easier to navigate. One of the big changes is that the idea boards will have, you'll be able to create your own idea board and then publish it. Right now, the publication has been with the administrators, so we think that's going to be a really nice feature. If you see cool spaces, you can take pictures of them, put your own collection together, share them. Same thing here with, the home page, just being able to come in, navigate through the text, and then right at the bottom, easy to create an account if you don't already have one. Obviously, that's all on the public side of the collection. Campuses, we've never received any pushback from anyone saying take down our space or no, our stuff shouldn't be in there, because you have to have an account to log in and get there. They trust that people that have any malicious intent aren't going to ask for an account, and likely wouldn't have a .edu account. So we'll also have lots of spaces for news updates. How to upload a space will be much more streamlined, a little easier than what I just walked you through. You can just click on all the space details, add your pictures, put some dimensions in. This is another huge feature. Finally, you're going to be able to walk into a room with a mobile device in hand, take pictures. We hope now with our new integration with HETMA that we'll be able to stitch in the learning space rating system right into the platform. But even if we don't do that right away, it's easy enough to have an iPad and have the LSRS criteria up and then be able to score and enter the score. So just for fun, here, let's go to a scroll. I like to live dangerously. So you can just go through someone when you're at a conference, you can say, oh yeah, I saw this really cool space, and you'll be able to call it up on your iPhone and navigate there pretty easily. So we think it's going to be quite a few improvements. You get the idea. Oh, little gamification, get started, add more stuff. Got a little carried away with all the different mobile examples. Finally, HETMA. I think we all know that the supply chain was pretty goofed up with the pandemic. And we had talked with a couple of organizations. Would there be interest in SUNY, handing off the care and feeding of FLEXspace to an organization that can really take it the next step? Truth be told, a lot of what we do is just my time in kind and that of Rebecca's, and we're bringing Aurora in more and more to help us out. But now with the help from HETMA, Joe and the board, we did a presentation and they said, yeah, this could be a really nice complementary thing. So we're just working through some of the back end with the legal stuff. As Joe likes to say, as it turns out, it's hard to move something out of the state of New York into another entity. And, I get it. Really no big problem, but that's the idea. Let me stop sharing my screen here. I can keep stuff up. Now we're looking at each other again, right? You would think I worked in IT or technology or classrooms or something at some point. Got anything to add, Aurora?
No, that was it, but definitely open for any questions. If anyone has any questions on anything that we do here at SDSU, happy to answer.
And thank you, Rodney, for tracking me down.
Well, thank you for being tracked down. I really appreciate you being willing to join us and share with us. Yeah, I use FLEXspace when I was working. I think it's a great it's a great system, great organization. So thank you.
Thank you. Great shirt. So I'd be curious, and happy to put it back up. I mean, I'm sure a number of you have used it. And if you haven't, tell me why. You're not going to hurt my feelings. I'd love to know what the barriers have been, and I'm not beyond calling on people. I've taught classes. Notre Dame. Rick, how's that? I call on you and you open your mic before I even get the sentence out. Good man.
I was ready with a comment anyway. I've known about FLEXspace for quite a while. And then I heard about this LSRS thing. And until your presentation, I did not know that the two were related. And we have been evaluating our classrooms with the LSRS model, but it's good to know that it's part of FLEXspace.
I really should clarify that. Thank you so much for bringing that up. The LSRS was really developed out of a bunch of folks working primarily at the big private schools. I think University of Michigan was in there somewhere as well. And they're the ones that took the action on the lead. Rich Holton out of Stanford and Adam Finkelstein out of, where's Adam? I know the school in Canada. At any rate, they openly licensed it. FLEXspace is also pretty much openly licensed. Whatever you upload, you're responsible for. You kind of click the box on that when you get in. Since they're both openly available, we went back to the LSRS folks and said, how about we start promoting, using you first and then coupling it into FLEXspace. So I don't want to give the wrong impression. We are all one big happy family, but we're not responsible for the upgrades over in the LSRS land. In fact, they beat us to 3.0.
Okay, so it's more like a marriage rather than a child.
Yes, kind of living together. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rick.
Hey, Lisa, thanks for the presentation. My name is Mike from Northwestern College here in Iowa. First time I've heard about it, but a question for you. Is there a way, and maybe I missed in the beginning, to integrate this so that accounting is happy when we upgrade rooms so for example, there's a lot of information in a FLEXspace, but it also would be advantageous to say, okay, I could log into my personal FLEXspace, and based on my login, I'd have access to who is the supplier of that product? When did I buy it? When does the warranty expire? Blah, blah, blah. I upgraded that room. Now I need to let the accounting department know that I upgraded that room to this from this, and they need to take it out of inventory or out of their capital list. Thinking that way. Did I miss? Is that integrated into this?
It's not integrated. I think it would not surprise me to see it get integrated at some point in the future. There is a company in Canada that has a nice tool for this. We talked with them about a potential sponsorship, or somehow or the other, maybe we can find an LTI pathway to make it easier to connect to some of these other tools. The short answer is you would need to develop that or fill in the space for that. And I'm sure you can tag it in a way that would make it easy to, pull that information back out. Essentially, it's just a big honking database.
Right.
And since there's so much talent in HETMA, let's talk with the board about, getting some of that functionality on the radar for down the road. Good point.
Thank you.
Thank you. Who hasn't been in it because they found it too frustrating? Doug McCartney is, I know he's been in there, so he's not shaking his head.
Oh, no, I'm not shaking my head. It's just the thing with FLEXspace to me is it's always been such a valuable resource out there. It's just finding the time to add your stuff. That for me has always been my goal, because I'm right now knee deep in projects, and when we stop, maybe I'll put some stuff up.
You raise an interesting point that I forgot to make, and that is when you create your record, you can always tag somebody else. So if there's somebody in facilities, as long as they have a FLEXspace account, you can share that account and you can offload the details for the facilities to people that are more immersed in that. Same way with technology folks, you can add any of the collaborators in, so you're not responsible for the whole shoot and match. Then you can send students out to take pictures and put the basics in. So you can take a little bit of that off your plate, but I'm right there with you. Usually sometimes it's just easier to do it yourself.
Yeah. But you make a good point about if, we all have student employees who are looking for hours, tasks, that sort of thing. And this would be a good thing to add them into the team that's going to help you, because frankly, my other full-time staff, they just don't have the time to contribute. They're too busy working on projects, and heaven forbid I unload this on a project manager who just when they completed the project started to move away from it, and they're like, what happened? I'm being sucked back in.
Mm-hmm. By the way, McGill is where Adam is. Don't you love being over 50? Yeah. Nice try, Rodney. Other questions? I just love being with you folks. I feel like it's just been too darn long since I've been around my peeps.
Hopefully we'll see you in Iowa.
Well, we're coming up on the hour here, so Lisa, Aurora, I really appreciate your time and for joining us and showing us this. I hope people that joined us got a lot out of it and start using it. I concur. I mean, when I was working, I really wanted to do more in FLEXspace, but the time is just it's a challenge. So it's an honor that the people that have got stuff up there, that's great, and there's a lot there to look at. So even if you're not able to upload, go out there and look at it and use there's a lot of good tools there. So thank you.
I was just going to say that's the dirty little secret. You can use it for planning without necessarily sharing, but the more you share, the more there is to draw from. So,
well, that's great that you're making it easier to upload stuff too. So, yep.
Okay, well, my email's in the chat. Any old time, give me a holler if you think of something afterward. I'm pretty easy to find on the internet.
Thank you all for having us.
All right, thank you.
Aurora, thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right.
And
Be well.
before everybody leaves, if you have other things that you'd like to see on a lunch and learn, reach out to us, and we'll see if we can't put more of these together. So we appreciate the participation, and keep in mind that the summit is coming up as well. Then March 14th and 15th, our friend Paul is hosting it at Carleton College in Northfield, Minnesota this year. So plan to attend, plan to present. If you've got something you want to share, we're looking for folks that want to bring something and participate as a teacher and not just a learner. So thank you all.